All right, settle in for another deep dive. Today, we're looking at a really fascinating character from the Victorian era, an artist whose work, well, it just makes you want to sit and stare into the mist and the gaslight. We're taking a good deep look at the world of John Atkinson Grimshaw.
Yeah, that's right. And we've got quite a pile of stuff here. You know, articles, bits from books, catalogs. It's a great collection to piece together his life and sort of his unique way of seeing things.
And our mission, like always, is to dig at all this and pull out the really key bits of knowledge, the important insights. We want to get past just the facts and figures and really figure out what makes Grimshaw's art still so appealing today, sometimes long after the critics had their initial say.
Basically a shortcut to getting smart about Grimmy, right? As Whistler supposedly called him.
Exactly. So, John Atkinson Grimshaw, where do we start?
Well, the basics first, I guess. He was born in Leeds, England. That was 1836. And he lived through a big chunk of that Victorian age, died actually quite young in 1893.
Yeah, and the first kind of interesting thing, his background, not exactly what you'd expect for an artist who got famous later.
No, not at all. Son of an ex-policeman.
Yeah.
And he started out working as a clerk.
A clerk?
Yeah, for the Great Northern Railway, so, not exactly a bohemian upbringing.
Right. And the sources really highlight this turning point in his life. Around 24 years old, he quits the railway job.
Completely walks away from it.
To become a painter. Full time.
Can you imagine telling your parents that?
Yeah.
Especially back then?
Huh. No. Dad, I'm leaving the secure railway job. I'm gonna paint pictures. The sources definitely suggest his parents were, let's say, less than thrilled.
Dismayed is the word they use.
And here's another thing adding to the, unconventional route.
He was totally self-taught.
Completely.
Yeah.
No art school, no formal instruction, nothing.
Learned by looking, by doing, an autodidact. He did get married in 1858 to his cousin, Frances Theodosia Hubbard. That wasn't uncommon then.
And his early work from the 1860s, it really shows him figuring those out. But it's quite different from what he became famous for.
Yeah, lots of paintings of birds, fruit, blossoms, that kind of thing.
Very detailed still lifes. The sources call them minutely observed. Technically, really impressive.
Huh.
But some people, then and later, felt they were maybe a bit stiff. Like things perfectly painted in a museum case, but maybe not quite pulsing with life.
You can definitely see the influence of the time, though. John Ruskin's whole truth to nature idea was huge.
Right, that push for incredible detail, almost scientific observation,
Yeah.
like the Pre-Raphaelites were doing.
Exactly. And there was another Leeds painter, John William Inchbold, doing similar highly detailed work. Grimshaw was clearly absorbing that focus on, painting exactly what you see.
So he's got this foundation in painstaking detail. But then he bumps up against something totally new for the era.
Photography.
Ah, yes. And this is where it gets juicy and maybe a little controversial.
Definitely controversial for the time. He was really taken with photography, which was still pretty new, but he didn't just use photos for reference sketches the way lots of artists did.
No, what did he do?
Well, he seems to have openly used things like a camera obscura or maybe projection lenses. Basically, ways to get the scene projected right onto his canvas.
Whoa, wait. Projecting the image, that sounds, like cheating, doesn't it? To some people back then.
That's exactly what some contemporaries thought. And they said so quite loudly. It was really condemned by some.
Why? Because it wasn't pure painting.
Pretty much. The thinking was that true skill lay in the artist's eye and hand translating the world directly onto canvas, using a gadget felt, mechanical, less skillful. Critics complained his paintings sometimes showed, and I quote, no marks of handling or brushwork. Some even wondered if they could be accepted as paintings at all.
Wow. Questioning if it's even a painting. That's harsh. It really shows how much they valued seeing the artist's touch, the brushstrokes, a lens felt too. Industrial, maybe?
Yeah, it cut right to the heart of what skill meant. But it's important to say that wasn't everyone's view. Even then, lots of people saw the results and were blown away.
They recognized the mastery anyway.
Yeah, his incredible control of color, light, shadow, and crucially, his ability to create this really powerful mood, that emotional response people had that kind of trumped the how did he do it debate for many.
And there's that historical footnote too, isn't there, about other famous artists?
Oh, right. Art historians now speculate that big names like Caravaggio, Vermeer, centuries earlier, might have secretly used similar optical tools, camera obscura, things like that.
So maybe Grimshaw was just more open about it. Or maybe just got caught.
Could be. though the sources do add a bit more detail. Apparently, unlike artists who just use photos for reference, Grimshaw sometimes seems to have copied directly or maybe even painted right over photographic prints.
And did that have any downsides?
Well, some analysis suggests that, especially in certain landscapes, maybe relying too much on a projected image could make them look a bit frozen or airless.
Like it locked everything down too perfectly.
Possibly. It could definitely help nail the perspective, which some sources hint wasn't always his strongest suit as a draftsman, but maybe sometimes at the cost of that organic, painterly feel. It's a fascinating tension, really. Technology versus technique versus, art.
Okay, so he's self-taught, super detailed, playing with new tech. But what's the classic Grimshaw image? What did he really become known for?
Right. The Nocturnes. The night scenes. That's the Grimshaw most people picture. Primarily urban landscapes, city streets, docks, all after dark.
There's amazing atmospheric paintings. Moonlight, gaslight, glow. You feel like you're right there.
Totally. He got famous for these kind of somber, really evocative views, capturing the specific mood of city streets and waterfronts under the moon or gas lamps. And he painted real places again and again. Glasgow, Liverpool.
Leeds, his hometown.
Yep, Scarborough, Whitby, London too. Lots of dock scenes.
And it wasn't just like taking a photograph, was it? He was creating an atmosphere.
Oh, completely. You look at them and you almost feel the damp air. You see the mist, the wet cobblestones reflecting the light.
The puddles. He loved painting puddles.
He did. And the smoky fog. He got both the look and the feeling, the mood in incredible detail.
It's interesting, though, because he's painting the modern Victorian city, the industrial world.
Right. But he often kind of filters out the really grim, dirty bits. He bathes it all in moonlight or this warm lamplight. It makes the scenes feel almost timeless, romantic even, elevating the everyday.
He really committed to the Nocturne, didn't he? Sources say he painted dozens, maybe hundreds.
Absolutely. His first known one is Whitby Harbor by Moonlight from 1867, and he just kept exploring that theme.
And the moon. Look closely, it's almost always a big, bright, nearly full moon.
Definitely. That boosts the romantic feel, the ethereal quality, long shadows, pools of light.
You mentioned the reflections, the wet streets, the water in the docks.
Crucial. They're not just background. Those reflective surfaces are where the light plays, where it shimmers and dances. It pulls your eye right in. They're active parts of the painting.
So the Nocturnes are definitely his calling card.
Yeah.
Hugely popular, sold well. But the sources show he did paint other things too. Quite a variety, actually.
Oh, for sure. It wasn't just night scenes, though they overshadowed the rest. Beyond those famous city and dock paintings, Liverpool Quay by Moonlight, view of Heath Street, shipping on the Clyde, reflections on the Thames.
Iconic titles.
He also did some stunning, pure landscapes, coastal scenes too.
Like Bowderstone, Borrowdale. The one they think might have used photography.
That's one, yeah. Or Ingleborough from Under White Scar, that's described as a really heroically conceived picture, capturing the drama of the Yorkshire landscape. And things like Scarborough Lights, showing the seaside town.
And he dipped into literature as well.
He did. Inspired by poets who were massive at the time, especially Tennyson, Alfred Lord Tennyson.
Yeah. Paintings like The Lady of Shalott, Elaine.
Exactly. And there's a great little detail in the sources. He actually named some of his kids after characters from Tennyson's poems.
No way. That really shows how much that stuff meant to him.
Yeah.
Arthur, Elaine. Wow. Okay, what else? Interiors?
Yep. He painted interior scenes, like one called Dulce Domum, which means sweet home. Sources mention he painted that one under great difficulties, which makes you curious about what was going on. They often show these quite richly decorated rooms, maybe with figures looking thoughtful, a bit pensive. You can see maybe a hint of influence from artists like James Tissot or the aesthetic movement.
That art for art's sake idea. Focus on beauty.
Exactly. And then there are the fairy pictures.
Yes. Like Dame Autumn or Iris. I love the story about Iris.
Oh, yeah. Apparently, he wrote on the back that Iris, the messenger goddess, got changed into a rainbow, which is why she looks so radiant in painting. Little touches like that. He even did a few less common neoclassical themes.
But running through all these different subjects, the one constant obsession seems to be light.
Absolutely fundamental. The sources say he was obsessed with how light worked, studied how it passed through glass, collected bits of refracting paraphernalia just to watch the effects.
You can see that dedication in the gaslit city paintings. It's not just light, it's that specific kind of light, That orange glow from lamps and shop windows that was transforming cities like Leeds and London back then.
He really captured the magic and maybe the eeriness, too, of artificial light taking over the night on a mass scale.
And while most of his famous scenes feel quite calm, even melancholic, he could do drama too.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't all peaceful moonlight. There are paintings like In Peril, a harbor flare, or Sick Transit Gloria Mundi, which shows the spa saloon burning down. Dramatic events lit by flares or fire. Shows he could handle turbulence and chaos too, still using light and atmosphere brilliantly.
Okay, so you mentioned Grimmy earlier and this idea of inventing the Nocturne. You can't really talk about Grimshaw's night scenes without mentioning James McNeill Whistler.
No, you absolutely can't. They were contemporaries. Whistler was also famous for his nocturnes. They even had studios near each other in Chelsea for a while in the 1880s.
Right, and that leads to that famous quote, the one everyone repeats. Whistler supposedly saying,
I considered myself the inventor of nocturnes until I saw Grimmy's Moonlit pictures.
It's such a great line. Makes Grimshaw sound like he really bowled Whistler over.
It's a fantastic quote, no doubt. Really captures the impact Grimshaw must have had, but the sources add a little caution here.
Oh.
Not quite true.
Well, it might be true, but it seems it might also be family lore, passed down through Grimshaw's family. It hasn't been solidly confirmed in all the Whistler biographies.
Yeah.
So, great story, feels right, but maybe treat it with a tiny grain of salt historically?
Okay. Good context. But still, it reflects how good people thought Grimshaw's nocturnes were, even if the quote isn't perfectly documented. And style-wise, they were pretty different, weren't they? Grimshaw and Whistler. Oh, very different, generally. Grimshaw, even in his most atmospheric scenes, usually kept things more realistic, more detailed, sharply focused almost.
Photographic. Back to that again.
Exactly. He was kind of taking the old tradition of painting moonlight in the countryside and applying that detailed, romantic approach to the city.
Where is Whistler?
Whistler was often heading towards impressionism, even abstraction in his nocturnes. He was more about capturing the overall feeling, the color harmony, blurring the details, less precise, more about the sensation of night.
Different goals, different methods. Both painting night, but seeing it differently.
Totally. Although, there's one Grimshaw painting, Snow and Mist, Caprice in yellow minor.
Ooh, that title sounds very Whistler.
It does, right, using a musical term like caprice. And the style of that particular one does seem a bit closer to Whistler's looser approach, so maybe he was looking over Whistler's shoulder sometimes too.
Interesting. Shows he wasn't working in a total vacuum.
No, definitely aware of what else was going on, even if he mostly stuck to his own successful formula.
So we have this self-taught artist, really prolific, finds his niche, becomes commercially successful. How did that success actually look in his life?
Well, by the 1870s, he was doing well enough to make a big move. He bought Nostrop Old Hall.
Nostrop. That sounds grand.
It was a 17th century mansion near Leeds. And it wasn't just his home, it shows up in a lot of his paintings. The interiors, views of the grounds.
Wow, living in his own subject matter. Did he have anywhere else?
Yeah, for a time he also rented a second house near Scarborough on the coast. He called it the Castle by the Sea.
After the Longfellow poem. Nice touch. Sounds pretty idyllic.
It does sound great, doesn't it?
Yeah,
but well, that prosperity didn't last smoothly.
Oh, what happened?
Around 1879, the sources talk about a pretty major financial setback, a disaster, really. It's not entirely clear what caused it, but it hit him hard.
How hard?
Hard enough that he had to give up the Scarborough house. He even moved to London for a bit, rented a studio there, while his family stayed back at Nostrop. He did eventually move back to Nostrop, though.
That must have put immense pressure on him. Did it affect his work?
It seems like it pushed him to produce more, maybe out of financial need. His output really ramped up in the 1880s after those troubles, sometimes hitting around 50 paintings a year.
50 a year? That's a lot. Especially with his level of detail.
It really is. That kind of pressure can be tough on an artist.
And he died relatively young, didn't he? Only 57.
Yeah, in 1893, back at Nostrop, sources mention cancer or possibly an abscess as the cause.
And the ending was kind of sad, financially.
Unfortunately, yes. His finances were apparently still precarious enough that when he died, Nostrop Old Hall and everything in it had to be sold off to support his family.
A tough end. But it is nice that the art continued in the family.
It is. Several of his kids, Arthur, Louis, Wilfred, Elaine, they all became painters too, so the Grimshaw name carried on in art.
So when you look back at everything, the unusual start, the unique style, the photography debate, the success and struggles.
Yeah.
What's his legacy today? How do we see John Atkinson Grimshaw now?
Well, one interesting thing is he didn't leave much behind in terms of personal writing. No diaries, hardly any letters. So his reputation really truly rests on the paintings themselves.
Especially those nocturnes, the townscapes.
Overwhelmingly, yes. And while maybe the high art critics of his time weren't always his biggest fans, his stock has definitely risen again, particularly in the last, say, 50 or 60 years.
There's been a real revival of interest at big exhibitions.
Absolutely. Major museums collected his work, and there have been important shows dedicated just to him, like a big retrospective back in 2011 that really brought him back into the spotlight.
And the critical view now? Still mixed.
Still a bit varied, yeah. It echoes some of those old debates. Some see him as just remarkably imaginative, master of mood and light. Others might still bring up the technique, the copying aspect, maybe wonder what he could have done with formal training or without the financial pressure pushing him to produce so much.
But for the public, he remains incredibly popular, doesn't he?
Oh, hugely popular. There's something about those atmospheric, almost theatrical moonlight scenes. They offer a kind of direct beauty and emotional connection. An easy pleasure, as one source puts it, and that's not meant as a criticism.
No, not at all. Sometimes that's exactly what art can do best.
Exactly. He's a point of pride in Leeds, his hometown. And his ability to find this sort of magic in the everyday industrial world, transforming it with light, that just has an enduring appeal that goes beyond art world debates.
That really sums up the journey through Grimshaw's world wonderfully.
Yeah, looking at his life and work, you really see someone who forged his own path. Self-taught, embraced technology when it was risky, and found this incredibly distinctive voice by applying a romantic eye to the Victorian city. He really did capture the magic of moonlight and gaslight.
It does make you think, doesn't it? When you see how he mixed that pinpoint realism with such strong emotion, using new tech in ways that made people question what art even was. What does Grimshaw tell us about how artists capture their own changing times? What is it about those moonlit pictures that still grabs you today? Something to ponder.